You know what's fascinating? Most people think strength comes from muscles, from how much you can lift, how fast you can run, or how much pain you can endure. But the truth is, the strongest people are not those who can push the heaviest weights. They're the ones who can carry the heaviest burdens without breaking inside. Mental toughness is not about ignoring fear, stress, or doubt. It's about learning the daily habits that allow you to stay calm in chaos, hopeful in struggle, and unshakable when life throws its hardest punches. And the good news is, mental resilience isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. Just like a muscle, the mind gets stronger when you train it. So today, I want to share with you 5 simple but powerful daily habits that will make you mentally unbreakable. Habits that the most resilient leaders, athletes, and change makers practice every single day, not because life is easy, but because they choose to be ready when life is hard. Imagine this: the very first moments of your day determine the direction of everything that follows. Think about it. When you wake up and the first thing you do is reach for your phone, you're not starting your day on your terms. You're starting on the terms of the world. Notifications, messages, headlines, endless feeds. Suddenly your brain is hijacked by other people's priorities, fears, and noise. Before you even brush your teeth, your mind is already flooded with distraction. That is not strength. That is surrender. Now consider the alternative: waking up with intention. Waking up and asking yourself, what matters most today? What will move me closer to the life I want to build? What kind of person do I want to show up as? That is purpose. And the difference between distraction and purpose is the difference between being reactive and being proactive. Strong minds are not shaped by chance. They're shaped by choice. And the first choice is how you begin the day. There's a reason why some of the most resilient people in history, from leaders to athletes to visionaries, had morning routines that grounded them. It wasn't about fancy habits or rigid discipline. It was about clarity. Because when you begin with clarity, your mind becomes unshakable in the face of chaos. Imagine 2 versions of the same person. The first wakes up, grabs the phone, scrolls through news, checks emails, dives straight into the noise. By 9 a.m., this person is already tired, scattered, and anxious. Now, the second version wakes up, takes a deep breath, maybe writes down 3 things they're grateful for, maybe reviews the one big goal they want to achieve that day, maybe takes 5 minutes to stretch, pray, meditate, or simply sit in silence. By 9 a.m., this person hasn't just started the day, they've claimed it. Which one do you think will have the stronger mind when stress shows up? Mental toughness is not built in dramatic moments. It's built in the tiny, invisible choices we make every single morning. Starting the day with purpose doesn't mean you have to run 5 miles or read 100 pages before breakfast. It means you set the tone, you send a signal to your brain: I am in charge. I decide how today begins. That small act of reclaiming your mornings trains your mind to resist distraction and to focus on what really matters. Think of the human brain like a battlefield. Whoever controls the first few minutes of your day wins. If you let distraction take over, you spend the rest of the day fighting uphill. But if you anchor yourself in purpose, you start the day with momentum. And momentum, once created, becomes very hard to stop. And there's something powerful about rituals. When you repeat the same purposeful actions every morning, they stop being tasks and start being identity. You're no longer someone who sometimes wakes up with focus. You become someone who is defined by focus. And when purpose becomes part of who you are, resilience follows naturally. It's like training a muscle. The first time you try to start your day intentionally, it feels hard. You might forget, you might slip back into old habits. You might feel tempted by the comfort of distraction, but the more you practice, the easier it gets. Over time, your brain adapts. Suddenly, distraction feels unnatural and purpose feels normal. That's when you realize you're building an unbreakable mind, because your strength no longer depends on willpower, it depends on identity. The other thing about starting the day with purpose is that it builds a buffer against the unexpected. Life will throw challenges at you: an email that frustrates you, a problem you didn't see coming, a person who tests your patience. If you've already grounded yourself in purpose, you're not shaken as easily. You've already decided who you're going to be before the world tries to decide it for you. You don't react, you respond. That difference is the essence of mental resilience. Think of great leaders. They don't wake up and wait for the world to tell them what matters. They decide. They set the tone, not just for themselves, but for the people around them. Their mornings are not about chaos, they're about clarity. And because they start strong, they can lead strong. If leadership is about inspiring others, then mental resilience is about inspiring yourself first, and it begins the moment you open your eyes. So ask yourself, how are you starting your mornings right now? Are you letting distraction win, or are you choosing purpose? Because every single day you get a fresh chance to train your mind, to build resilience not by reacting to what happens to you, but by deciding how you will begin. Gratitude is often dismissed as something soft, something sentimental, almost too simple to make a real difference. But if you look closely at the people who endure the hardest circumstances and still come out stronger, gratitude is one of the most powerful tools they carry with them. It is not about ignoring the challenges of life, and it is not about pretending everything is perfect. Gratitude is about training your mind to notice what is working even when so much is not. It is about rewiring the brain to find strength instead of weakness, hope instead of despair, and opportunity instead of defeat. Our brains are wired to scan for threats. It is an evolutionary mechanism that kept our ancestors alive. Thousands of years ago, noticing danger meant survival. But in today's world, that same wiring means our minds naturally focus on what is missing, what is broken, what is stressful. Left unchecked, this becomes the default lens we see the world through. And that lens makes us fragile. Gratitude interrupts that cycle. It teaches the brain to notice what is present, what is supportive, what is good. And when the brain learns to see the good, resilience begins to form. Think of someone going through a crisis. Two people can face the exact same storm. One breaks, the other bends and then stands taller. What separates them is not the absence of pain, it is perspective. The one who practices gratitude is able to find meaning even in the struggle. They might say, "This is hard, but I'm grateful I have people around me who care." Or, "This is painful, but I'm grateful for the strength it's building in me." That subtle shift doesn't erase the challenge, but it changes the way the mind processes it. Gratitude transforms struggle from something that crushes you into something that teaches you. When practiced daily, gratitude becomes a mental exercise as real as lifting weights. Each time you acknowledge something you're thankful for, you're carving new neural pathways in your brain. Scientists call it neuroplasticity. What it means is simple. What you focus on grows stronger. If you focus on fear, fear grows. If you focus on problems, problems dominate your thinking. But if you focus on gratitude, your ability to see strength, to find opportunity, to stay calm in chaos grows. Over time, the brain becomes conditioned to return to gratitude automatically, especially in moments of stress. That is the foundation of being mentally unbreakable. Consider the morning habit of writing down 3 things you're grateful for. At first, it might feel mechanical. You might write, "I'm grateful for my bed, for coffee, for the weather." But as the practice deepens, the brain starts to look for more meaningful details. "I'm grateful my friend checked on me yesterday. I'm grateful I had the courage to speak up in that meeting. I'm grateful for the lesson hidden in yesterday's failure." What you're really doing is teaching your brain to become a seeker of strength instead of weakness. And when you seek strength long enough, you start to embody it. Gratitude also reshapes the way we connect with others. When you actively notice the good in people around you and express it, you're not just lifting them, you're strengthening yourself. Because resilience is not built in isolation. It is reinforced in community. A grateful mind attracts trust, and trust is the backbone of strong relationships. And when you're surrounded by people who know you value them, you create an environment where resilience multiplies. Gratitude is contagious. It sets off a ripple effect that doesn't just make you stronger, it makes the people around you stronger. What's powerful about gratitude is that it doesn't require circumstances to change. It only requires perception to change. A person can be wealthy and miserable if they are blind to what they have, while another can have very little and still feel rich because they see the value in every small gift. Gratitude doesn't deny pain, it balances it. It doesn't eliminate problems, it gives you the strength to face them. It doesn't change reality, it changes how you meet reality. Even in leadership, gratitude plays a critical role. A leader who only focuses on what is missing, what went wrong, or what needs fixing drains the energy of their team. But a leader who practices gratitude and acknowledges effort, progress, and contribution creates an environment where people feel seen. And when people feel seen, they give more of themselves. Gratitude fuels trust, trust fuels commitment, and commitment fuels resilience. The same principle applies to our own minds. When we practice gratitude, we start to see ourselves as capable, resourceful, and strong. And when we believe that about ourselves, we become harder to break. The truth is, gratitude is discipline. It is not always easy to find something good, especially when life feels overwhelming, but that is precisely why it is powerful. Choosing gratitude when it is easy doesn't build resilience. Choosing gratitude when it is difficult does. Every time you find one small thing to be thankful for in the middle of chaos, you are reminding yourself that chaos does not control you. You are in control of where your focus goes. And that control is what strengthens the mind. Discomfort is something most of us are wired to avoid. We want safety, we want ease, we want certainty. Our brains are programmed to seek comfort because comfort feels safe. But the paradox is this: the more you avoid discomfort, the weaker you become. Every time you choose the easy path, you are teaching your mind to retreat, to compromise, to lower its standards. And every time you choose the harder path, you are teaching your mind to grow, to adapt, to push beyond its limits. Resilience is not built in moments of comfort, it is built in the furnace of discomfort. Think of physical training. If you only lift weights that are light and easy, your muscles never grow. Growth comes from resistance, from stretching beyond what feels comfortable. The mind works the same way. If you only do what feels safe and familiar, your mental muscle stays weak. But when you deliberately step into situations that challenge you, that stretch you, that make you sweat and even stumble, you are teaching your mind that it can survive difficulty. And the moment your mind realizes it can survive, it becomes unbreakable. Discomfort has a way of stripping away illusions. When you face it, you see who you really are. You discover strength you didn't know you had. You discover patience, creativity, and resilience that only show up under pressure. It is in discomfort that people find out what they're truly made of. But if you run from it, if you live your life avoiding every hard choice, every painful truth, every uncomfortable conversation, you never access that deeper layer of strength. You live in a shell, and shells always break under pressure. Choosing the hard path doesn't always mean doing something dramatic. It can be as simple as waking up earlier than you want to, holding yourself accountable when it would be easier to make excuses, saying no to instant gratification, or confronting someone when silence would feel safer. Each of these choices is uncomfortable. Each of them takes effort. But each one is a brick in the foundation of mental toughness. Look at the people we admire most: leaders, athletes, entrepreneurs, activists. They are not admired because they had easy lives. They are admired because they faced hardship and leaned into it instead of running away. They embraced discomfort and allowed it to forge them into something stronger. Nelson Mandela spent decades in prison, stripped of comfort, stripped of freedom, and yet came out not broken but stronger, more determined, and more resilient than before. That strength was not built in luxury, it was built in discomfort. The problem is, we live in a world that sells comfort as the ultimate goal. Every advertisement promises ease, convenience, shortcuts. We are taught to believe that the less discomfort we feel, the better our lives will be. But that is a dangerous illusion. Comfort zones may feel safe, but they slowly drain resilience. They keep us small, fragile, and dependent. When the storms of life inevitably come, and they always do, comfort zones do not protect us, they betray us. Because we never trained ourselves to handle the storm, embracing discomfort is not about seeking pain for the sake of pain. It is about training your mind to adapt. It is about building the confidence that comes from facing something difficult and realizing you can handle it. It is about preparing yourself so that when life gives you no choice but to endure discomfort, you are not shocked by it. You are ready for it. One of the simplest ways to practice this is to deliberately place small discomforts into your daily routine. It could be taking a cold shower when your body craves warmth. It could be walking instead of driving when you're tempted by convenience. It could be tackling the hardest task of your day first instead of putting it off. Each of these is a small exercise in telling your mind, we do not run from what is hard. We face it. And with repetition, your brain begins to trust you. It begins to understand that discomfort does not mean danger, it means growth. The more you do this, the more you begin to notice a shift. Stress that once felt overwhelming begins to feel manageable. Problems that once made you panic become challenges you lean into. Fear that once paralyzed you becomes a signal that you're about to grow. Discomfort stops being something to dread and starts being something to respect. It becomes a teacher, one of the best teachers you will ever have. And this principle applies not just individually, but collectively. Teams, organizations, even societies become stronger when they embrace discomfort. A team that only celebrates wins but avoids tough feedback never grows. A society that hides from uncomfortable truths never evolves. A leader who shields their people from every challenge robs them of resilience. Growth comes when leaders, teams, and individuals choose to walk into discomfort together and let it shape them. We live in a time where information is everywhere. Our phones buzz, screens light up, news flashes across every platform. The world is constantly competing for our attention, and most of the time, it wins. Without realizing it, we let outside noise dictate the state of our minds. What we consume, what we read, what we watch, what we listen to, and even the conversations we allow into our lives directly shapes our energy, our focus, and our resilience. Protecting your energy is not about shutting out the world. It is about being intentional with what you allow to enter your mind and influence your state. The brain is like a sponge. Whatever you expose it to, it absorbs. If you spend hours scrolling through negativity, outrage, and comparison, your mind begins to mirror that. Anxiety grows, insecurities deepen, and resilience weakens. But if you feed your mind with ideas that challenge you, with stories that inspire you, with voices that lift you, then your energy shifts. Suddenly, you carry yourself differently, you think differently, and you respond to challenges with more strength. The mind does not operate in isolation. It is a reflection of the environment you place it in. Think about your diet. No one expects to eat junk food every single day and still have a strong, healthy body. Yet somehow many of us consume mental junk food every single day, endless gossip, fear-driven news, shallow comparisons, and expect our minds to stay strong. Protecting your energy means guarding your mental diet with the same seriousness as you would guard your physical diet. Because what goes in will always come out in your words and your choices, in your resilience. Consider how fragile you feel after binging on negative news. The world suddenly feels heavier, scarier, and less hopeful. That is the weight of consumption. Now contrast that with how you feel after listening to a meaningful conversation, reading something uplifting, or spending time with people who encourage you. The same day, the same world, but your energy is entirely different. What changed? Not the circumstances, your consumption. You chose to fuel your mind with something that strengthened it instead of weakening it. Protecting your energy also means setting boundaries with people. Some people bring light into your life, others drain it. Some conversations leave you hopeful, others leave you exhausted. Mental resilience requires you to discern the difference. This doesn't mean you cut everyone out or avoid challenges. It means you recognize that your energy is precious, and if you allow it to be constantly drained by negativity, you will have nothing left when real adversity arrives. Strong people are not the ones who let everyone's opinions dictate their focus. Strong people are the ones who know what to let in and what to keep out. Leaders understand this deeply. The best leaders are deliberate about the messages they listen to, the voices they trust, and the people they surround themselves with. They know that if their energy is poisoned by distraction, fear, or negativity, it will spread to everyone they lead. Leadership is contagious. If a leader is consumed by toxic energy, the entire team absorbs it. But if a leader protects their energy and chooses to consume clarity, purpose, and optimism, that too spreads. Protecting energy is not selfish, it is a responsibility. Another way to look at it is through the lens of focus. Every distraction steals a piece of your attention, and every piece of attention that is stolen weakens your ability to stay centered. Protecting your energy means filtering out the noise so you can focus on what truly matters. It is saying no to what drains you so you can say yes to what builds you. And this is not always easy, because distraction often disguises itself as urgency. Notifications feel important. Gossip feels entertaining. News feels necessary, but most of it is noise, and noise is the enemy of resilience. When you take control of your consumption, you reclaim control of your state. You stop reacting to whatever the world throws at you, and you start responding from a place of clarity and strength. You stop letting fear-based voices dominate your thoughts, and you start choosing voices that fuel your courage. Over time, this creates a shield. Challenges still come, setbacks still hurt, but your energy is no longer fragile. It is grounded. What is remarkable is that this practice compounds. The more intentional you are with what you consume, the more resilient you become. And the more resilient you become, the easier it is to filter out what doesn't serve you. Your energy becomes less about what happens to you and more about what you allow into you. That shift is powerful. Because when your energy is yours to protect, your mind becomes something the world cannot easily break. Discipline has a reputation for being something harsh, something rigid, something that feels like punishment. But true discipline is not about restriction, it is about freedom. It is the freedom that comes from knowing you can trust yourself. Discipline is the quiet confidence that no matter how difficult things get, you will follow through on the promises you made to yourself. And the way this kind of discipline is built is not through grand gestures or dramatic acts of willpower, but through small, consistent actions repeated daily until they shape who you are. The mistake many people make is believing that mental toughness comes from big, heroic efforts. They think resilience is about rising to the occasion in extraordinary moments. But the truth is, resilience is built in the ordinary. It is built when you do the thing you said you would do, even when you don't feel like it. It is built when you choose the action that aligns with your values instead of the one that gives you short-term comfort. Every small act of discipline is a vote for the kind of person you want to become, and over time, those votes add up to identity. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't do it because you love the process. You do it because you know the outcome is important. Discipline works the same way. You may not love waking up early, or exercising, or writing in a journal, or choosing healthier food, but each of these small, consistent actions compounds into strength, focus, and resilience. The real power is not in any single act. It is in the consistency, because consistency teaches your brain something powerful, that you can be relied upon, that your words and actions align, that you can trust yourself. When you trust yourself, you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop wasting energy on endless debates in your mind. Should I do it? Should I not do it? Maybe I'll do it later. Discipline eliminates that noise. The decision is already made, and that clarity conserves your energy for the challenges that really matter. The strongest people are not those who have the most willpower in the moment. They are the ones who have built systems of discipline so reliable that willpower is hardly needed. The beauty of discipline through small, consistent actions is that it creates momentum. At first, the actions feel hard. Waking up earlier feels like a battle. Reading for 10 minutes feels insignificant. Saving a small amount of money feels pointless. But with repetition, those small acts grow roots. They become habits. And once something becomes a habit, it no longer requires the same level of effort. What once felt heavy now feels normal. What once felt impossible now feels automatic. Momentum is one of the greatest sources of resilience because it keeps you moving even when motivation fades. And motivation will fade. That is the truth people don't like to hear. You will not always feel inspired. You will not always feel strong. You will not always feel ready. But discipline doesn't ask if you feel like it. Discipline asks if you will show up regardless. And every time you do, you strengthen your mental muscle. You teach yourself that feelings are not dictators of action. That is a lesson that makes you unbreakable, because when life gets hard, your actions are not at the mercy of your emotions. Small, consistent actions also compound in ways you cannot predict. Writing 1 page a day might feel meaningless until a year later you have a book. Running for 10 minutes might feel too short until 6 months later you realize you can run for an hour. Practicing gratitude for 2 minutes might feel minor until one day you notice your mind automatically searching for positives in the middle of chaos. Discipline multiplies over time. What feels like nothing in the moment becomes everything in the long run. Leaders understand the power of consistency. The best leaders are not those who deliver one inspiring speech and then disappear. They are the ones who show up for their people day after day in small, reliable ways. They listen consistently. They encourage consistently. They set the tone consistently. That reliability creates trust, and trust creates resilience. The same is true for your relationship with yourself. When you consistently show up for yourself in small ways, you build trust. And when you trust yourself, you become far harder to break. There is also something deeply grounding about discipline. In a world that is chaotic and unpredictable, discipline gives you anchors. No matter how uncertain things become, you know you will still do the small actions that keep you strong. That predictability gives you stability, and stability gives you resilience. Because when everything around you feels shaky, the habits you've built remind you that you are not powerless. You have control over your actions, and those actions make you strong. The people you surround yourself with are one of the most powerful influences on your mental strength. Human beings are social creatures wired to connect, to mirror, to absorb the energy of those around them. No matter how independent we think we are, the truth is that the company we keep shapes our mindset, our habits, and our resilience. You can be disciplined, focused, and determined, but if you spend most of your time with people who drain your energy, who pull you toward negativity, who constantly doubt and criticize, your mental strength will erode. On the other hand, if you choose to surround yourself with people who lift you, challenge you, and remind you of your potential, your resilience multiplies. Strong minds are rarely built in isolation. They are forged in environments where people hold each other accountable, where encouragement is given generously, and where belief in one another is a daily practice. Think about how athletes train. They don't train alone in silence forever. They train in teams with coaches, with mentors, with peers who push them to do more than they thought possible. The energy of others pushes them through the days when their own motivation runs low. The same principle applies to mental resilience. You need people in your corner who strengthen you when you are tempted to give in. There's a saying that you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. While it sounds like a cliché, it's deeply true. If the majority of people around you are pessimistic, constantly complaining, and always expecting the worst, it will be almost impossible for you to maintain optimism. The human brain is too influenced by repetition and exposure. Negativity spreads like smoke in a closed room. It fills the space and suffocates everyone inside. But if the people around you are optimistic, if they see possibilities where others see problems, if they respond to challenges with solutions instead of complaints, then that same energy shapes you. Optimism, too, is contagious. Surrounding yourself with people who strengthen you does not mean surrounding yourself only with those who agree with you. True strength comes from people who are honest, who challenge you when you need it, and who remind you of your values when you drift. Weak relationships are built on comfort. Strong relationships are built on truth. Sometimes the people who strengthen you most are not the ones who tell you what you want to hear, but the ones who tell you what you need to hear. A real friend, a real mentor, a real leader is someone who pushes you beyond your excuses because they see the strength in you that you might be too afraid to claim. Resilience grows when you have people who believe in you during moments you don't believe in yourself. Everyone faces doubt. Everyone has days when they question if they are strong enough, smart enough, capable enough. What separates those who break from those who endure is often the presence of even one voice that says, "I believe in you. Keep going." That single expression of belief can ignite strength in someone who is ready to give up. It is proof that mental toughness is not only an individual pursuit, it is a collective responsibility. Leaders know this better than anyone. The best leaders create environments where people feel supported, trusted, and valued. They don't try to build strength alone. They build strong cultures. A culture where people watch each other's backs, where support is given freely, where encouragement is the norm. That kind of culture produces resilience at a scale that no single individual could create alone. And you too can create that kind of culture in your personal life. You can choose to cultivate relationships where strength is exchanged, where energy is lifted, where resilience is multiplied. Protecting who you surround yourself with also means making difficult choices. Sometimes it means distancing yourself from people who consistently weaken you. That doesn't mean cutting out anyone who struggles or anyone who has bad days. We all have those. It means recognizing patterns. If someone's presence in your life constantly leaves you feeling drained, small, or powerless, you have to ask yourself whether that relationship is serving your growth or destroying it. Choosing to step away is not cruel. It is an act of protecting your energy, of preserving your strength so you can give more to those who truly value it. When you intentionally surround yourself with people who strengthen you, your vision expands. You begin to see possibilities you would have missed on your own. You gain courage to take risks because you know you're not alone if you fall. You push yourself harder because you see others around you striving too. Resilience becomes less about gritting your teeth through struggle and more about moving forward together with the support of those who believe in you. The truth is, every great achievement, every resilient journey has been supported by a circle of strength. Even the people we call self-made were not truly alone. They had mentors, supporters, critics who cared, friends who encouraged, and communities that reinforced their efforts. Strength is not only built within you, it is drawn from the people around you. The question is, are you surrounding yourself with people who add to your strength or people who drain it? Reflection is one of the most underutilized tools we have as human beings, yet it is the very practice that allows us to transform experience into wisdom. Every day, whether we realize it or not, we are bombarded with moments that have the power to shape us. Some of them feel like victories, others like defeats. But what truly matters is not whether we win or lose, but whether we pause long enough to understand what those moments are trying to teach us. The people who grow the fastest, the ones who seem mentally unbreakable, are not necessarily the most talented or the most gifted. They are the ones who practice reflection with discipline. They look at their days not as a blur to rush through, but as a classroom filled with lessons waiting to be discovered. Think about how many times do we go through a day on autopilot? We wake up, we work, we react, we go to bed, and then we repeat the cycle. Days blend into weeks, weeks into months, and before we know it, years pass. But if we don't stop to reflect, If we don't pause to ask ourselves, what did I learn today? What can I do better tomorrow? Then we rob ourselves of the very growth that could make us stronger. Reflection is like looking into a mirror, not just to see what's on the outside, but to understand what's happening on the inside. It requires honesty, it requires humility, and it requires courage to admit that even on our best days, there are things we could have done differently. The great leaders, the resilient ones, the ones who people look to in times of chaos, all share this common trait. They reflect constantly. They don't just celebrate their victories and move on, they analyze them. They ask why something worked, what decision led to success, and how they can repeat it. And when they fail, they don't bury it, they don't run from it. They lean into it. They sit with the discomfort of failure long enough to extract the lesson it's offering, because failure, when reflected upon, becomes wisdom. And wisdom is what makes us unshakable. What's powerful about reflection is that it doesn't take hours. It doesn't require special tools. It simply requires intention. At the end of the day, sitting with a notebook or even just with your thoughts, asking, what did I do well today? Where did I fall short? What did I learn about myself, about others, about life? These questions seem small, but they open doors to immense self-awareness. And self-awareness is the foundation of resilience. If you don't know yourself, if you don't understand your own patterns, fears, and strengths, then you will always be at the mercy of circumstance. Reflection puts you back in control. Another important part of reflection is gratitude. When we look back at our day, it's easy to obsess over what went wrong. But reflection is not about judgment. It's about understanding. It's about acknowledging progress, however small it may be. Maybe you had a tough conversation that you handled better than last time. Maybe you pushed yourself to complete something you've been avoiding. Those are victories worth noticing. Because the more you notice your progress, the more your mind learns to focus on growth instead of setbacks. Gratitude within reflection gives you the energy to keep going even when the journey is difficult. Reflection also strengthens mental resilience because it connects you to a bigger picture. When you pause and look back, you start to see patterns. You notice that the things you once thought were impossible are now part of your story. You realize that struggles that once broke you down actually built you up. This perspective makes you less afraid of future challenges. Because when you see how much you've already endured, you understand that you are capable of enduring even more. Reflection transforms fear into confidence, doubt into trust, and mistakes into stepping stones. For some people, reflection happens in silence. For others, it happens through journaling. Some reflect in conversations with mentors or trusted friends. There is no single method that works for everyone. The important thing is consistency. Just as you would exercise a muscle daily to make it stronger, you must exercise reflection daily to build mental strength. Skipping it weakens the process, but practicing it regularly compounds growth over time. What begins as a 5-minute habit at the end of the day can, over years, become the very thing that shapes your character, your resilience, and your success. It's also worth remembering that reflection requires vulnerability. It's not easy to admit when we've fallen short. It's not comfortable to confront our own mistakes. But vulnerability is not weakness. It is strength. When we are honest with ourselves in reflection, we give ourselves the permission to grow. Pretending that everything is perfect might feel easier in the moment, but it builds a fragile mind. Admitting where we can improve may sting, but it builds a mind that cannot be broken. And reflection is not only about looking backward, it's also about looking forward. When you take time to reflect on your day, you create clarity for tomorrow. You walk into the next day with lessons already in your pocket, with wisdom already guiding your choices. Reflection helps you design your future rather than stumbling into it blindly. It's not about dwelling in the past, it's about using the past as fuel for what comes next. The most unbreakable people in the world are not those who never fail, never doubt, or never feel pain. They are the ones who take the time to understand their journey, who learn from every win and every failure, who practice the discipline of reflection so that nothing is wasted. Every experience becomes valuable. Every setback becomes an opportunity. And every day becomes a step toward becoming stronger than the day before.